Well, here we are again once more in Gig Harbor at the Walcott Rocking Jellyfish Bar and Lounge. Correct?
Yes.
We're here with our friend Stephen Coran one more time, myself and Ray, for another issue or edition of Welcome to Rum. Stephen, I see you've curated for us some fantastic looking samplings of Plantation's Barbados blends.
Oh, curate, fancy word. Yes, I curated it. Actually, what happened was our home bar has been open less than 2 years. We moved here into this house 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And for the last 2 years, I've been learning more about rum. Heidi and I here are big gin drinkers, but we've expanding into rum. So when we're fortunate enough to see a plantation rum, it all started with the 20th anniversary XO plantation rum, which got me addicted, which is my favorite sipping rum. And I think, Ray, you and I, when we first moved here, I think we polished probably a whole bottle.
We drank a lot of that rum.
Drank a lot of that rum. So
excellent rum.
Has a newbie to rum. What I've done is, and because of that plantation, and at Devil's Reef has taught me a lot about plantation because Jason Alexander
Were you aware of plantation rums before moving to the area and frequenting the Devil's Reef?
I had seen it, but I don't know if I've ever drank it before going to the Devil's Reef.
Yeah, if you're not already familiar with the Devil's Reef, that's Jason Robin Alexander's bar in Tacoma, Washington. Jason Alexander became aware of plantation rums and developed a relationship with them, and he's featured plantation rums very heavily in his cocktail menu. So all of us in the area that have frequented the Devil's Reef and the Tacoma Cabana before it got very familiar with plantation rums.
So whenever at Plantation Barbados, I find it on sale at Total Wine or Liquor and Liquor in Tacoma, which is my favorite liquor store in the state of Washington, I would pick it up. And so a fancy way of saying I curated it is, and the reason Barbados is because that was my introduction to rum. And so it became my favorite. And I think it's a great introduction to rum.
Yeah.
Because it's the rum in the middle.
Yeah, it's a very well situated as far as the different islands having their different pros and cons depending on what your palate's like. Barbados is flavorful but smooth, whereas some islands are a little bit weaker, some are a bit sharper.
So it's more flavorful than the Spanish style, the Cuban style rums. Mm-hmm. It's less funky than the Jamaican style rums. Yep. It's less earthy and flowery than your agricoles. Absolutely. It sits in the middle there. It also, there's a mix of pot and column distillate. So the pot will usually give you your more funky, flavorful. The distillate will give you your more smooth. And so Plantation and Foursquare in particular are able to blend the different rums in a way to get the flavor profile that they want. So it's to say it's the middle rum almost gives it a backhanded compliment, but middle in this case for me is good because I don't want an overly powerful rum. I don't want an overly weak rum. This is just the Goldilocks, just right. At least for me and my palate.
Yeah, I think of the Barbados rums as being complex and satisfying.
Yeah, so very drinkable. And so because I'm new to rum, I don't know a lot about it, but Barbados takes the claims that it's the first island from which the rums, as we know it, the Caribbean rums, originated. 3 major distilleries, and Plantation's parent, Maison Ferrer, bought the biggest distillery in Barbados, the West Indies rum distillery. And so they own it. Foursquare owns the other one, their parent company, and Mount Gay owns the other big one. And,
Mount Gay claiming to be the longest continuously distilled rum in the world.
Right. But the Foursquare distillery, the one that's now owned by Foursquare, Plantation used to buy some of their rums off that. And the West Indy Rum Distillery also will sell to other people. And I think the Foursquare and Mount Gay probably have more rums in storage than Plantation. So there's there's a whole intermixing in history. And the Plantation's ownership of the West India West Indies rum distillery is only 4 years old, so it's pretty new. But it means that I think they're going to continue to offer more and more Barbados rums in their annual single cask offerings, and that's some of what we've had here.
Right, because Plantation initially didn't control distilling. They would buy up batches and they would blend and age for the flavor profiles they were looking for, and that's what brought them to the forefront as flavorful quality rum.
So Plantation is a good brand to try, I think, for what we're doing today, and so here we are.
Yeah, although there's 6. I didn't realize that there was 6 rums that we were going to try today.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's probably more Barbados rums that Plantation has too, right? Sure.
Well, the Kenichi XO, which is Plantation gives to Total Wine and Company, is a Barbados.
Love that.
And you guys had that already.
We featured them before, so yeah, we didn't include that in this, but by all rights, it's a Plantation rum.
And other single casks, because I'm sort of new to it. It's these are single casks that I picked up in the last 2 years, and maybe 1 or 2 of these might be 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old. But these are still fairly new rums. So there's probably, if you're lucky enough to find an old one kicking around somewhere, my guess is you should just pick it up and then take it home and do what we're doing. Taste it.
Yeah, film a video and then put it on YouTube.
And send it to Ray.
Yeah, that way I don't need to do all this work. Hey gang, we'll get back to the Tiki conversation here in just a second, but I want to let y'all know they have t-shirts for sale. They are screen printed in America. The artist is Tony Canepa, and they're going for $20 a piece, $25 including shipping. If you're interested in buying one, go to my website, tikiwithray.com, and then there's a tab that says buy a t-shirt. Click on there and just follow the prompts. So thank you very much. So let's start off with the Plantation 5-year. This was my introduction into Plantation rums, actually. And I remember the first time I tasted this 5-year, I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. And this is like my work rum.
Right. It's meant as a work rum or something that you would use for recipes that you'd use as a mixer. But honestly, I've enjoyed sipping at it from time to time. It's a very smooth, tasty rum.
And it's not very expensive either.
But it's on the average 5 years aged.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any sharp bits to it, but it's a satisfying rum, and it's actually a really reasonable price point.
Well, it's cheap. Well, let's refresh our memories of what this tastes like.
All right.
Welcome to Rum.
Yeah, still holds up.
Yeah. It's got a really nice little spice note to it. And that's one of the things that I loved about it.
It does.
And it's smooth, though.
It's smooth,
there's
but
no burn at all, actually.
But it's got a little bite, but it's not a harsh bite.
Yeah, it starts off really smooth. It's got a little bit of heat and a little bit of bite on the swallow.
A little bit of heat, I guess, is the nice way to put it. Yeah.
If I was to introduce someone into rum, I'd give them this.
Yeah.
But for people that are not as familiar with drinking rum straight, if you just add 1 ice cube, give it a little swirl, maybe a slight dash of simple, maybe a slight squeeze of lime, and it's virtually a cocktail ready to go.
Yeah.
Good way to start this off, and I'm curious to see how things are going to go from here. What is the next one we're going to try?
So the next one is a single cask. It's an XO Barbados, which came out, I'm guessing, a year or 2 ago.
Is that it?
Yeah, 2019 edition, and we're taping in early 2021. So yeah, less than 2 years old. So it's a fairly new. And it's the single cask collection, and so Plantation every year puts out, I don't know, would you say 6 or 7? In the U.S. anyway. Overseas,
right.
I hear they put
seem
out
to have
more.
An increasing amount because I go online from time to time to see what they're putting out and see what there is to check out.
So there's special collections. So anyway, this is a 2019 Barbados.
Yeah, let's try this now. I'm curious to see how this goes.
Oh, I'm getting more coconut almost on the nose.
I get a strong hit of cinnamon when I first sip it.
Yeah, I got the coconut, a little cinnamon, very, very smooth, almost a little, not meek, but certainly whereas not very forceful, but I could chug this almost.
You know what? I like it. I like it, but I think it's still like the 5-year better at this point.
I think the 5-year doesn't have as much of a spice to it, it doesn't have as much flavor, but it seems more rounded.
This doesn't taste too much like a Barbados rum to me. The taste that I'm tasting isn't what I was expecting. I like it, and it's good. I mean, if you put it in front
But do you get that coconut cinnamony?
Is that what I'm?
nose?
Is that what I'm tasting?
That's what I'm getting. I don't know.
Coconut is not something I would have expected to sip this.
But it's very dry. There's a dry tropical fruit, and then a big hit of what comes off to me is very cinnamony.
Yeah. But it's not.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
I
don't even know if I. Now I take a nurse. I can't say I don't. I don't know if I like it.
I like it.
Do you like it?
But that cinnamon heat stays for the whole swallow. It's not. It doesn't just hit and go away. It's there.
I like it because, again, especially if a rum newbie, it doesn't have a lot of heat or bite.
Right.
Probably as rum drinkers, for you guys, it doesn't have enough. It needs more of a grab.
Well, it doesn't have that. I think it was almost like a butane or jet fuel that you get off of some.
Yeah, but
liquors.
But it doesn't. Whereas the 5's got a little bit of heat at the end, right? A tiny bit, not a huge bite.
Maybe it's a situation where I'm just familiar with what the 5-year tastes like.
But the problem is now the price points of all of these I would never put in a cocktail except for the 5-year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this would get lost in a cocktail.
No, I wouldn't put it.
But it has its own. This one I'm going to sip. I would sip.
I think that cinnamon spice note would still carry through in most simpler cocktails.
It'd have to be pretty simple because it's a much the profile's really, it's a low profile. I don't know. And it's complex.
Do you like it, Jason?
Yeah, actually, I don't know that I've had this one before because I think I'd remember that flavor profile.
So I'm the odd man out with this one. What is our next round?
So the next one is another single cask. This came out in 2020, so it's a new one. It's a Barbados 6 years old. So we tried a 5 years old, which is the more commercial mass-produced. This is the single cask, 6 years old.
Yeah.
So this should be an interesting comparison with the 5.
Yeah,
See what
it can only go better from. I was not a big fan of the last one.
This is a stronger nose than the 5-year. Very smooth.
Okay, now we're talking.
Smooth and a much more rounded flavor.
Now we're talking.
Now there isn't like one note that immediately jumps out
This
at
is
you.
very, very smooth. This is very, very smooth. This tastes more like a Barbados, what I was expecting. This is exactly what I was thinking it would be. I mean, it's like the 5-year, but better. And
much smoother though. This is super
smooth. There's less bite. It tastes like a Barbados rum.
Yeah.
That one, the other one, it didn't.
Well,
I like this one.
Yeah.
Well, see, I tend to like rums that have more of a wow factor. Like I like a lot of Jamaican rums, so that's why the XO appealed to me because it's got a significant note to it. When
is the 6-year too smooth for you?
I wouldn't say too smooth. It's
too...
well rounded. It's got a warm, rich flavor to it, so it's a flavor, but it's not kicking you in the palate.
I agree with you, Jason. I like it's like if you can, whatever that taste is, if you can amp it up a little bit more,
yeah,
I think it would be perfect. I do like it though. I do like this.
So my disclosure is when I sip a lot of rums, because I don't sip a lot of rums or hard liquor on my stomach, is usually I'll put a little splash in there. Mm-hmm. These last 2 rums, I would never put a splash in because it's almost like they already have it in there. This one being very, I don't know what, fruity, spicy, but in a sweet, unusual way. This one is, like you say, classic. It's like if I wanted to take the 5-year and just smooth out every rough edge, this is the 6-year.
I agree with that.
Launching into the second half of these, and Jason, I guess you'd be best positioned to tell us a little bit about what makes these different, because we had 2 amazingly different flavors of the XO and the 6-year rum, yet when I read the label, they're very similar. And also, what makes these rum different? If you're getting them all Barbados rums, why are they different?
So one nice thing about plantation rums is that they give you a lot of information on their labeling. So it can be very educational just to read the labeling on it, and it'll give you notes on length of fermentation process, length of aging, and something that Plantation does a lot of is a double aging where they will age it in one type of barrel and then age it in another type of barrel. So the difference between aging in used bourbon barrels, which is very common,
which is they used in both of these.
Right, and there's also and then Plantation often finishes their aging in their cognac casks. What they'll do is they'll age in the Caribbean, then they'll transport by sea over to France, where they have a gigantic cellar that's climate controlled to try and mimic the climate of the Caribbean. Because aging takes place much faster in a warmer, more moist environment than in a colder, drier environment.
But that maturation, those caskings can make a huge difference, because when you read the primary part of the labels, front and back, these are almost identical.
They're very similar.
And yet,
right.
we've seen, these are they're nothing alike.
Nothing at all.
So
I'm really curious to see as we go now with the. So, is this our first true aged plantation rum?
So
here?
this is
2005?
yes, this is tropical aging. To your
Right, which
point,
would be
11
done in
years,
Barbados.
bourbon casks in Barbados, continual aging, élevage in the Maison Ferrand casks for 2 years. Distilled in 2005 and aged until 2018. So this is a 2005 that came out in probably 2018 or 2019. The next one we're going to try.
So I'm really curious to see.
Okay, so it was aged 18 years before bottling, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how this tastes.
All
Let's
right.
try it.
Cheers.
I get a really flowery nose when I go to sip that.
Yeah, but
This is my favorite so far, hands down.
really.
Yeah. This is
So what?
this is incredible.
Okay, tell me what you like.
Well, it's balanced.
Yeah,
It has that spice.
it's got the heat. Yep.
It has that what do you call it, Jason? The powwow.
Bang pow.
The bang pow that's there.
So, it's not overly spicy the way that the Barbados XO was here, and it's almost this. So I found the 2000s, or I'm sorry, not the 2006, the 6-year age there to actually be a little bit more rounded to me, whereas this seems to have a more pronounced flavor, which you would think the additional aging would round it off more.
I think if you like that whiskey bite in your rum,
yes.
this has it. Whereas the reason I like the XO better is because it doesn't have a bite. In fact, it's almost, to some people it might be too smooth. Okay. This one's got that classic rum.
Yeah.
Which the 5-year had some, but this has got more of a
Right.
sophisticated flavor to it. The aging made a difference. But if you put this next to the 5, I think you'd say they were from the similar family of rums, wouldn't you? The 5-year. Only this one's been aged longer, so it has.
No, I mean if you so far that XO has been the outlier, but if you do it's like good, better, best so far.
This is a 2001.
Now, in theory, this should be smoother than 2005 because it's aged longer, right?
I would guess so.
Is that what we're thinking?
Well, 2005 was aged 11 years. This is aged 10 years. But this has also been in the bottle. Now, I don't know, Jason, you can tell me about bottle aging, whether that makes a difference.
Bottle aging is not as significant as barrel aging because it doesn't pick up flavors from the glass. It may mellow more over time, but it won't pick up additional flavors.
So it'll be interesting to see what the differences are.
Well, let's see what it tastes like.
It's like the XO, only a nicer version of the XO. I get that.
Yeah, there's a spice, but it's not a sharp spice. It's like it's getting warmer, but it never quite gets to the this is spicy taste.
Do you think this tastes like the XO?
A much better version of the XO.
Not the 6-year, but the XO.
It's got a little 6-year in it, it's got a little XO in it.
Yeah, it's not a sharp spice; it's a mellow spice to it.
And very smooth, much smoother than the 2005.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Like a more smooth cinnamon flavor.
It's like if you took this and then put it much better with a little bit of this to round it out. It's got a really nice. I'm really loving this.
And these are all very similar in price point, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I really like the 01.
Yeah, this is smoother. This is smoother than the 2005.
But it doesn't have the classic bite or heat that this one had. I mean, it's very funny. So these three are the same family to me, and the XO and this are the same family, although this is far, far, far superior.
So yeah, I would say the 2001 is definitely more flavorful than the 2005, but also much more approachable. So
much more approachable. But again, if you like a little heat, if you're a whiskey drinker as well,
you favor rye more than you do bourbon.
You're going to go for the 05. But if you like the sweeter nose, a little bit of that spice that we heard in the XO, but more rounded with a... so, yeah, I really, really like the 01. It's just a combination of everything we've had before.
It is good. I really like it. Although I still think I like the 2005 just a little bit better.
And I can see that.
So there's only one place left for us to go now, and that's
Right.
the top of the heap.
Well, our traditional top of the heap, whether we still think that.
Well, we're climbing the mountain before us.
Well,
So what's the story with this one? Now this says XO2, right? But it's not the same XO as that.
I assume not. It's a 20-year. It was a special.
Yeah, it was a 20th anniversary, correct?
Right.
Yes.
A special bottling that became so popular that they made it a standard bottle, right? Because it's not the hardest one of these to find, and it's most people's one, among their favorites, certainly within the plantation universe. So,
Well, let's. I'm curious to try it against everything else that we've had today.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's got.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very rich. Yeah, that's very rich.
It's hands down, it's the best one in my opinion.
It's got almost a velvety feel to it.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Yeah, that's a great combination of flavor and refinement.
Yeah, but that cinnamon, almost coconut, has got a little bit that you find in here and a little bit in here. The traditional Barbados, what we think of Barbados, with a little bit of bite and heat is here. It's almost like they somehow took all of these bottles and magically mixed them into one greater than the sum. I can taste all of these in here, but the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
All right, so let's line them up. I'll go first. Best to worst. This one's my favorite. Then the 2005. Then the 2001. 6-year, 5-year XO.
Okay.
What about you?
I would go the XO, the 01.
Okay.
Then I would do the 05.
Okay.
The 6-year. I'm going pretty much the way we lined them up on the table.
Okay.
Since I lined them up, maybe that's not a coincidence. Although, in fairness, I had not tried these middle three before.
So for me, the only thing that I would do is I would switch places between the Barbados XO and the 2005, and that's the order I would go in.
So you would go.
No. The 5-year is still my start off point.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would put the XO because it's more flavorful. This guy really impressed me. The 6-year, I'd never tried that one before, and the amount of finesse that it adds to it with whatever they do differently in the aging process with that extra year makes a huge difference between this and that. So I would, I would put the Barbados XO. Yeah, I would put the Barbados XO in that position.
Okay.
And I would go ahead and move the 2005 over here because the 2005, it didn't really stand out for me. It was very good. I had no complaints. I'd never say no if somebody wanted to pour me some.
Interesting. I thought you would have been on the same page as me with the 2005, but I loved the 2005.
I thought the 2005 was really good, but I really liked this 6-year, and I really liked the pronounced flavor that I got off of the XO.
Interesting.
But that's what my palate, I tend to like the more pronounced flavors.
But we can all tell, and I'm the newest person to rum here, but yet we all can tell the quality and sophistication of each of these rums. And even for me as a novice, I can tell how much I think this side of the table, the sophistication brings, whether you like it or not, as much. Because there are differences, and I'm glad there are differences. I was worried there would be too much similarity.
No, they're actually not similar at all.
So yeah, like we talked about earlier, Plantation is fairly new to controlling distilling. What they rose to prominence over was the art of blending and aging.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we got here is, the cumulative art of blending and aging rums.
Look at all this.
I know. I feel like I should say something, but if I do, it'll probably be stupid and be on the outtakes. So keep silent.
No, hold on. We'll try it. Try it.
Well, we'll do the outtakes after I drink. How's that?
There'll be outtakes all through it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we plan the outtakes. Okay, now, Stephen, this is the part of the show where you say something funny.
I think, Ray, you and I are so anal about these things, we probably would plan the outtakes if we had more time.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like scripted outtakes.
No, that's when you know that I failed or I sold out. When I'm doing scripted outtakes.